Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into a topic that's more relevant now than ever. While the British royal family is out there trying to maintain its presence on the world stage, we're seeing that the facade might be cracking. King Charles and Queen Camilla's recent tour to Australia and Samoa was, by all accounts, a major flop. Yet, somehow, the British media, led by the likes of Piers Morgan, is desperately trying to convince everyone otherwise. So, let's break down why this was not the resounding success they're making it out to be, and how the royalists and the British media are actually making it worse for the monarchy in the long run. So, let's talk about this so-called historic tour. When King Charles and Camilla touched down in Australia, it was the first time a reigning British monarch visited the country in years. You'd think it would have been an event met with overwhelming enthusiasm, right? According to the royalists, particularly Piers Morgan, this trip was a stunning success with over 10,000 people supposedly gathering at the Sydney Opera House to greet the royals. Sounds impressive. Until you actually look at the photos and reports from the scene, which tell quite a different story. The turnout was a far cry from 10,000, and the crowd was nothing near what we'd call overwhelming enthusiasm. Instead, what we're seeing are smaller gatherings and louder than ever protests. Protests that clearly reflect the real sentiment in Australia and across the Commonwealth. People are speaking up, and they're not just waving signs and shouting. They're calling out deep, painful historical truths that the monarchy has conveniently ignored. One powerful moment that made headlines was Senator Lidia Thorpe's fearless stand against King Charles. She didn't mince words either. She publicly called out Charles for the monarchy's history of colonial violence and theft. "You committed genocide against our people. Give us our land back." These are not new grievances, but it's rare that someone has the courage to stand up and say them right to the royal family's faces. The image of Thorpe being dragged away after calling out the monarchy is the one that's really stuck in people's minds, not any grand, adoring crowds that Piers and the British media are trying to hype up. Meanwhile, Piers Morgan is doing what he does best, denying the truth. Instead of addressing the real issues, he's on a one-man mission to sell this trip as a massive success. He even called Senator Thorpe a foul-mouthed imbecile just because she had the nerve to speak up. This kind of dismissive, derogatory language is exactly what we saw from the British media when Harry and Meghan told their side of the story. It's the same playbook Piers and his cohorts have used for years. When anyone stands up and speaks their truth, they become targets for the tabloids. It's no surprise that when Lidia Thorpe confronted the monarchy, Piers and other royalists deflected with name-calling, rather than confronting the real message. But why? Because challenging the monarchy's relevance and accountability threatens the very foundation of the monarchy and its supporters. For anyone who questions or confronts the monarchy, Piers and the media have a go-to strategy: attack, discredit, and insult. That's their idea of dignity and duty, but we all know there's no dignity in denying someone else's truth. The British media's devotion to the monarchy isn't about reverence, it's about profit. Tabloids like the Daily Mail and broadcasters like Piers Morgan rely on the royal family for constant, lucrative content, gossip, and endless drama, and in return, the media gives the royals a PR shield. They're invested in selling a narrative of a thriving, beloved monarchy. Why? Because it's profitable, and that means defending the royals, especially Charles, Camilla, and William, at all costs, no matter how many truths they have to distort to do so. Piers and others aren't just defending Charles and Camilla, they're defending their business model. It's a mutually beneficial cycle of dependency. And as long as the media keeps painting this rosy picture, the royal family feels invincible. But there's a danger here. When the media continuously pushes this false narrative, they distance the monarchy from the real issues that could ultimately threaten its survival. Piers and his peers keep telling us that this trip was a spectacular success, supposedly proving that the monarchy is still a rock at the heart of the Commonwealth. But if you look at the facts, it's clear this is wishful thinking. Commonwealth nations are increasingly questioning the monarchy's relevance, and many are actively considering leaving. The royalists might cling to the notion of the monarchy as a unifying force, but reality paints a different picture. The younger generations, especially in countries like Australia and Canada, don't feel the same loyalty, and the louder these anti-monarchy protests get, the harder it is to ignore them. And here's the real kicker. Royalists like Piers often frame the monarchy as a dignified and dutiful institution. Yet, how dignified is it to respond to valid criticisms with insults? When Lidia Thorpe bravely raised her voice, she wasn't foul-mouthed. She was expressing truths that many have carried in silence. She dared to ask for accountability from a monarchy that for centuries exploited and suppressed countless communities. What's dutiful about running a smear campaign against anyone who challenges them? And here's the irony. Piers claims the royals represent duty above all else. But that so-called duty somehow includes dodging accountability and ignoring the voices of those harmed by the British Empire's legacy. Rather than confront the ugly past, the monarchy, aided by media sycophants, tries to rewrite the present. Every time Charles and William embark on these grand tours, only to face disinterest or backlash, I can't help but be grateful that Harry and Meghan chose a different path. They saw through the hollow spectacle and chose authenticity over appearances. Harry and Meghan broke away from the toxic cycle, and they are now living a life built on truth and personal freedom. And when Harry and Meghan speak their truth, they don't rely on the media machine. They don't hide behind a carefully orchestrated PR campaign. They stand on their own, and that takes real courage. This tour was supposed to prove that the monarchy still has an important role to play. But in reality, it highlighted how out of touch they are. In an era where people are more aware of historical injustices and more connected than ever, you can't just dismiss the calls for accountability. And as more people like Senator Thorpe speak up, it's only going to get harder for the royal family to sweep these truths under the rug. They say pride comes before a fall, and that's exactly where the British monarchy seems to be heading. They're holding on to this outdated, self-serving pride, and they refuse to acknowledge the truth staring them in the face. And as they continue to push this false narrative of unwavering popularity and unquestionable relevance, they're only speeding up their own downfall. The real tragedy is that if the monarchy would only listen to the criticism, acknowledge the past, and make meaningful changes, they might have a chance at survival. But as long as they rely on media allies like Piers Morgan to paint over the cracks, their foundation is only going to weaken. So today, let's take a moment to appreciate that Harry and Meghan had the courage to step away. They chose honesty, integrity, and love over the hollow legacy of a royal title. They chose to build a real life with real purpose and compassion, free from the toxic influence of royalist pride and denial. Meghan helped Harry see that he could live a life of true freedom, not tied down by the expectations of an outdated institution.
People have said my wife saved me.
Yeah.
I was stuck in this world.
Yeah.
And she was from a different world and
Yeah.
helped sort of draw me out of that. But none of the elements of my life now would have been possible without me seeing it for myself.
Yeah.
As we know, it's one of the, it's hard to change. It's almost impossible to change other people.
Yeah.
You've got to start with changing yourself.
Exactly.
And allow that growth to happen. But yes, my partner is an exceptional human being, and I am eternally grateful for the wisdom and the space that she's been able to give to me.
Thank you all for tuning in today. It's a relief to see that, despite all the noise from the British media, the truth is clearer than ever. The monarchy may continue to prop itself up, but the world is changing and people are waking up. We're so proud of Harry and Meghan for choosing a different path, a path built on love and truth. If you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more royal updates and analysis. And as always, stay true, stay kind, and remember, the truth has a way of shining through. See you next time.